Kicks and Kicks is the only talk show that meets your sneaker and martial arts needs. I'm your host, Jacko, and today I'm here with indie games developer Aaron Wise. How you doing, buddy?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. It's great to finally have you on. I mean, we haven't spoken in a long time. We've got a bit of history together. We've done a podcast in the past that obviously didn't work out. But you know, we're great friends. We keep in touch, and I'm hopefully going to be talking to you and catching up about all the stuff that you've been doing. So no, it should be good. And there's definitely a lot of value that you can give, especially to people looking to get into games developer and games development and just into gaming in general. I'm not much of a gamer myself. I occasionally jump onto Xbox with my mates and you know, get on Warzone or something stupid like that just to kill a bit of time. So I'm not so like game savvy. So it's going to be definitely a learning experience for me just to sort of see all the work that goes behind it. Sound good?
Yeah, sounds good. And I mean, that's one of the curses, I guess, of game dev and stuff. Right? I used to be quite the avid gamer, but very rarely do I actually get any time to play games these days.
Oh, really? Other than just like testing your own, you don't?
Yeah,
yeah.
Very rarely will I take something, you know, like a break and just chill out and play a game, for example. But I still have a ton of fun just making them. So yeah.
Oh, that's good. At least you're doing what you enjoy. Because I know it got to a point, obviously, before you were, you know, creating content, you were streaming and stuff quite regularly. And I think obviously I've noticed you've sort of gone off and done what you wanted to do, which I'm really like. I look up to that a lot. And it's good that you've actually gone and, you know, bitten the bullet and gone for it. I think Christian's told me, you're currently doing a course or a uni or something to do with games development?
I actually went back to university, like full on proper university, but obviously due to COVID, it's all from home. And I'm doing an official master's degree in game development now. So I'm just kind of taking all the self-taught stuff that I did and just applying it in I guess an official capacity now.
Oh, that's really good. So it's a master's in games development.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So I'm assuming that means you obviously started from just teaching yourself just on your home rig and stuff. Is that sort of where you started from? Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. So I always had a decent sort of computer setup anyway for like I said, gaming and stuff. And then obviously I met a couple of indie devs, Vidus and Matt Reeves. And they basically just got me into it. And that's obviously when it started interfering. Well, not really interfering, but you know what I mean. It's sort of like this. It kind of played on my mind a little bit more. I would spend more time thinking about doing it than actually doing it, and that's why I decided to just bite the bullet and in the end and do it. Quit my job, just run and sort of take a running leap of faith kind of thing, and it's actually worked out quite well. So yeah.
Oh, that's good then. Yeah, no, it's good to hear that you're finally doing what you love. So I think we'll break this up into a few parts. We'll go first into like how you got into gaming, how you got into, you know, game design and stuff like that. We'll talk about some of the projects that you've worked on recently and you know, things that you've done, the things that you're working on now, and then we'll at the end hopefully you can give some advice to people that are maybe looking to get into the industry or just looking to learn some things. We can end with that, so a bit of a past, present and future kind of thing. So we'll start from the beginning. So what was your introduction into gaming? What was sort of like your first memory?
My first memory in terms of gaming in general, or making them just like in just
we can start with gaming in general and then we can see
so I guess gaming in general was Sonic the Hedgehog back on the Sega Genesis all those years ago. It was like bought as a birthday gift or something like that for me. And then, you know, you had like things like Streets of Rage, Columns, you know, and then it went on to things like the Game Boy with Tetris and Super Mario and stuff. And I think just from there, I just kind of fell in love with it really. And then I think with every iteration of console that's come out, so I've had the NES, the SNES, Genesis, PlayStation 1, 64, GameCube, original Xbox 360, you know, you name it, I've had it. I think the only one I haven't had as of yet is the PlayStation 5, but then again, no one can get hold of those. So
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, no, I've been I've played some of the Streets of Rage games. They were a bit before my time, but I've gone back and played some of those and some of the old Sonic games. For me, the first sort of my first introduction into games, or the one that I remember most, is Gex. I think I've spoke to you about it before. I always
Yeah,
go on about Gex. Like that was my first yeah, just my first experience of games. I used to play the first level. And I don't know if you if you've played it or you remember it in Gex 3. There's a Christmas level right at the start,
yeah,
and
I
it's
remember that. Yeah,
just it was like the only one I could complete as a kid. I was probably like 3 or 4 or something, so I was ridiculously young, and so I'd make my dad. I'd sit there and watch my dad play the rest of the game. But that's like my first experience with gaming, and I
mm.
think I mentioned to you before, because there's only a handful of people that know about Gex. I've noticed,
Yeah,
like
yeah. It was a bit of an
yeah,
underdog.
yeah, because when I was growing up, obviously, because I played it like for years and stuff, I assumed that like all the kids like he was on the level of like Mario or Sonic or something. But
Hmm.
I've grown up now and I've realized like the game I was playing was the last one they ever made, because it didn't like sell very well and stuff. So I've actually revisited it. I've bought a PlayStation 1, or I got given a PlayStation 1 as a gift, and I've got some of the old games that I used to play. So it's been really nice, like sort of revisiting, and it's like a bit of nostalgia, but it's also eerie as well, because it's like there's so much like untapped potential. I feel like the
Mm.
hub world and stuff. There's a lot to explore, and like it seems quite like unfinished and stuff. So I don't know. I know the developers of that game, or the people that hold the rights to it. They've recently sort of released it like to the public. Like people are allowed to sort of pitch their ideas, and they're allowed to go ahead and like make a new Gex game or something. So I'm hoping,
Oh,
Aaron,
nice.
if you're if you're free, please make another Gex game, Gex 4,
uh,
the Return of Gex or something. No, so that was my first memory, and then I went on to that was PlayStation 1. Then I got the PlayStation 2, so I was playing like some Crash Bandicoot games and stuff like that. So there's a lot of like 3D platformers. And then now I don't do much gaming, if I'm honest.
mm.
A bit of
Yeah,
shooters and
yeah,
stuff, but
yeah.
yeah. So you mentioned before, so you're not actually we'll go on to, so how did you get into designing games and creating games, game development?
Well, obviously, for those people that do know me, I obviously spoke a lot about a guy called Vidas Salavegas, who lives in Lithuania, who made things like Timor, and he made things like A Dream for Aaron. There's no relation there, and all that sort of stuff. But then I also met Matt Reeves through playing some of his games on Itch.io, which is like a website dedicated to download like indie games and stuff like that. And we just got talking, and then I met Vidas through Matt. We were just talking one day, and they were just like, you have some really good ideas for games and stuff. You should do game. You should make games and stuff. And I was like, no. So I think one night I just kind of stayed up all night using a program called Blender, which is like a 3D modeling tool. So like when you see things in games like graphics and animations and stuff, they're normally done in one of these sort of programs like Maya or Blender. And I chose Blender and I made a donut. And I think it took me 12 hours. It was just a simple donut, but it looks so good. And I think just after that, I'd kind of got the bug for it. And Matt then started giving me lessons in Unreal Engine. Um, and yeah, just kind of spent, I think it was like 2 hours a day, maybe just kind of practicing, doing stuff, digging around, just no matter what happened, just kind of get stuck into the middle of it kind of thing. And watched a bunch of tutorials in my spare time, and things just kind of eventually stick, become muscle memory. And now I've got 11 games under my belt, published on Itch.io. I've got one on Steam as well, which was done as part of a collaboration. And now I'm working on some sort of bigger sort of scoped projects that I'll be looking to come out to Steam. And I want to say 2 weeks ago now. Obviously, it could be time. Obviously, I can say this because there's no game in the works yet. I say in quotations, but as of 2 weeks ago, I now publish games on Nintendo for Nintendo Switch.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Oh, that's incredible. Yeah.
I had to sort of pitch an idea, and they really liked it, so they gave me access to Nintendo Switch. So I've got a dev kit coming, and as soon as that arrives, I'll be able to make and publish games for Nintendo Switch,
Oh
which
wow!
it's
Congratulations. Yeah.
thanks.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
great.
it's not it's quite a difficult thing to sort of kind of get into, but
Yeah.
yeah, we got on that, and I'm currently looking at in talks with Xbox about a game I'm working on as well. So yeah.
Oh wow! I didn't even know that. That's crazy. So you had to sort of, so you had to pitch an idea, sort of like apply for it, and what are you allowed to talk about your idea, or is it sort of under
I
wraps?
can't talk about it because obviously the way that they structure things, I had to sign an NDA. But I can say that I'm one of the indie devs, and that games will be coming to the Switch. That's all.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. No. Make sure you keep us updated. Then I'm sure you'll be, posting about it and stuff. Make sure you keep us updated, and maybe you can come on again and share sort of the process behind,
yeah,
working with
yeah. Sure,
Nintendo and stuff. If you're down in the future. No,
absolutely.
that's really cool. So you spoke about Unreal Engine. Oh, this is a bit going off what I had planned, but I heard or I saw a couple of weeks ago they released a new. You're gonna have to help me here. There's a new model or new series of is it Unreal Engine, and it's like a new system where it's like a big upgrade where it renders
Yeah.
stuff close in a really high detail and then stuff further away in not
Yes.
as good detail. So it's like, it's more like efficient in processing like environments and stuff. Is that correct?
Yeah. So if you imagine, when they started, they just had Unreal Engine. Then they upgraded to Unreal 2, 3. They're currently on 4. And then you have all the subvisions like version 4.2, 4.1. So they're currently on 4.27.
Yeah.
And obviously, but you can download the new one, version 5, which is their experimental beta version. Obviously, there's still some bugs in there. It's great for sort of like planning your, I guess, future projects in advance with that sort of stuff. I have got Unreal Engine 5 on my laptop that I'm using to just experiment with. But yeah, they use a thing called Nanite and Lumen. So Lumen is for their real-time lighting system, which is like
Yeah.
drag and drop, and it does all the dynamic shadows for you and stuff, and it looks great. And Nanite is kind of like super high quality details from, like you said, close or far away, and it can render up to something stupid like 5 trillion triangles. And it gives you roughly around 4K looking visuals at the cost of somebody just running it on a basic 1080p machine.
Yeah.
So they've done a lot in terms of scalability to let people with low end systems really sort of kind of get stuck in with some of the really detailed stuff that would normally be quite taxing on a system, like that sort of thing. So they're making quite a lot of progress with the engine stuff. So I look forward to when I can sort of like really kind of get into that. But unfortunately, when you're publishing like full on games, you can't really use 5 because of the stability issues and bugs and stuff. And it's
Yeah.
just going to create like more work for you in the end.
Yeah. So obviously a lot of stuff still to sort of iron out, I guess, with that
Yeah.
new
Yeah.
system. Yeah. So I know obviously you mentioned you don't really get much time to play games. Do you have so you don't have anything that you're playing at the moment, or
I mean, we got my wife and I, we picked up the new Xbox on day one. We were lucky to get that one, and we
yeah.
obviously got the Game Pass with it and stuff. And she's always like, in our household, it's like she's the Xbox fan and I'm the PlayStation fan and
Okay.
stuff. But I must admit, the new one's quite nice, especially when you pair it with Game Pass. I recently played, and I actually did finish it. I know it's quite an old game, but obviously it's on Game Pass, so the way I see it was free.
Yeah.
Was that Zombie Army 4 and stuff, because anything
Mm.
with shooters and zombies, I'm all over. And obviously, I had to play Resident Evil 8 Village just because I'm
Yeah.
a massive Resident Evil fan. It's one of my inspirations and stuff. So they're the only 2 things I've played recently. So, but other than that, there's nothing else I'm currently playing. Not right now. I might just kind of, you know, dive into something now and then, but nothing sort of like that I'll go away and chill out for in a couple of hours. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I recently just got Game Pass because my mate's
Mm.
he's been trying to get me to play Sea of Thieves. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's like a big
Yeah.
like open world game. It's all right. It's
Mm.
quite a slow pace. It's not something that I would choose if I were playing it on
Yeah.
my own, but
Yeah.
um I've been playing it with my mates and it's quite a good time. It's sort of like
Yeah.
a make your own adventure. We just go around fighting people and blowing stuff up. So it's quite entertaining.
Yeah.
I've been playing around with some of the other games on there. Like there's I know it's quite a big series, but I just haven't played them before. Yakuza. I think it's
Yes.
one of the newer ones. I downloaded that. It's the first time I played one of them, and it's like
They're
obviously
great.
I don't know what's going on in the story because I just jumped in at a random point, but the combat's quite entertaining on that as well because obviously I'm a martial artist, so I appreciated like, and you can use
Yeah.
the surroundings. You can get out like a pipe or something and whack someone with it and everything, and have some kicks and stuff. So I've been enjoying that as well. I haven't been playing it regularly, but it's something I've sort of jumped onto. And also, speaking of Game Pass, isn't there the new Halo? It's coming out for free on that, I believe.
Yeah, anything first party related. So anything that's done by Xbox Studios or owned by Xbox Studios will be free for Game Pass. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Wow.
Yeah.
That really is the future, I think, is
Yeah.
the subscriptions.
Subscription service, I think. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. Actually linking to Halo, like, because Halo 3, that's my favorite game. Like
I remember.
that's the game that I've played them. I put the most amount of hours into that, the best memories on that game. What is your favorite game of all time? I know you're into like Resident Evil and stuff, but what's like your number one like game?
Number one of all time would probably have to be Final Fantasy VII on the PlayStation 1. I very much enjoyed the remake as well on the PS4, but definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, once a year at least, I will play that game from start to finish. This might be the only year I may not do that, but Final Fantasy VII definitely.
Oh,
it's
nice.
actually on Game Pass, actually, so maybe, who knows?
Is it? Yeah, no, I think I saw that on there, and I was thinking, like, I know that it's got a lot of praise behind it, so I was thinking of downloading that one next. Yeah, no, for me, it's Halo 3. Like, even like the campaign, I've played through it countless times, but there's something about that like era of gaming where it wasn't as like polished, so you could like I would find ways to like get out of the map. Like on Ford, you could pick up like teleporters and like I was like a 8 or 10 year old or something, so I was like chucking a teleporter out there, and it was just a lot of fun, and because they didn't have all like the hard kill boundaries and stuff, they would just have like something in the way. So that's like a big memory of mine, is like custom games and doing all that. And you just don't get that in games anymore. You don't get to, like, one thing I appreciated with the Halo 3 campaign is you could pick, like, for example, the Scarab, I believe it's like the big like big armored tank vehicle. You'd just get like in a sandbox with that thing, and you'd be able to like work out how you wanted to take it down. Like you could shoot the legs with a rocket launcher and jump on. You could like go up the lift thing and jump onto it and stuff. So, and if you think of like Call of Duty campaigns, it's like it's one corridor, then you like mash, like shoot, and then you go into like a quick time event, and there's no like decision making. Whereas like on Halo, I'd like, okay, today I'm going to try and do it with like just a pistol, or there's so many other like things you can add onto it yourself. So I think that lends itself to like the replayability of those kind of games of that era. So I was looking at some of the projects that you've worked on recently. I saw one called House of the Dead. This one stuck out to me, and I saw that you built it in 2 weeks.
14 days for a game jam.
That's incredible. So it's for some kind of, I assume that's some kind of game competition of some description.
So there's a YouTuber who's, I guess he's actually quite popular. His name's Mr. Craven, and we've actually become quite close, quite friendly. And he lives in America and stuff, and he basically hosted his first game jam. So basically, people who are fans of his content on YouTube would make him a game, and then he'll play it, sort of thing. So I made House the Dead built, and 2 weeks, which was very little sleep in those 2 weeks, sort of thing. It was quite an ambitious game because it had fixed camera angles like your old PlayStation Resident Evil type ones. It had combat, a boss at the very, very end, multiple different locations. So no,
it looks interesting. Like I saw there's like a snowy like kind of area at the start and stuff, and it reminded me, I don't know if you've seen it, Hateful Eight, the Tarantino film. It looks
Yeah,
exactly like that. Was it inspired by that at all? Because as soon as I saw that like location, it's got like the barn, and like the doors like flapping, which like flapping
yeah,
open in the wind, which I know is like it's you know, it's a big part of that film. And then
yeah.
there's the barn that's like far away, and they have to like create a fence to like make sure they can get to it. Is that so? It didn't.
No,
It looks
maybe,
exactly
maybe
like it.
subconsciously,
Yeah,
but no, like there not at one point during making that was I was thinking of the Hateful Eight. A lot of it was just the way that you do it is pretty much just get your landscape, and as a landscape tool, you kind of just smooth it all out and put structures in, where you want them to put. But I guess maybe it just panned out that way. The whole door flapping in the wind, I think, is more of a horror trope for me. Like
yeah,
you think back to films like The Evil Dead and stuff, and there's like that kind of cheap cabin in the woods kind of thing, and then they've got that little shed out there with the chainsaw hanging up and the doors flapping in the wind kind of thing. And you can see this throughout most different horror movies and stuff. So I kind of just put that in there for that sort of thing.
And I know you quite often make horror games. You've made like some platformers, but they often have like horror elements or like
Mm-hmm.
horror like visuals in them. Is like horror your favorite genre, or is it because it's like easier to make horror games, or is it just from like, you know, how you got brought up into games that you sort of gravitate towards that kind of style? What's the reason behind that?
So I guess the answer is yes, pretty much to most of those. So horror, yeah, it's probably my favorite genre. I wouldn't say horror is like probably the easiest to sort of make though, because the thing with horror is everything's subjective. What
Yeah,
scares you might not scare me, and what scares me might not scare you, for example, And so really, what's become quite annoying in the whole horror genre is this whole I think people refer to it nowadays as jump scares, where they
yeah,
just use cheap kind of screams and sudden flashes of whatever to sort of make the player go, oh, kind of thing. And a horror can be so much more than that. I think what I tend to do is try and make a bit more psychological horror. So
mm,
not stuff that's going to kind of jump out of you and make you jump, but things that kind of play on your mind and things like that. And I think when I did that game, What Is That? Which I did for a game jam game, there was this thing that was obviously haunting, not haunting you, but stalking you on the street that you lived in. And to advance the night, you'd have to sleep and then you wake up. But there was a mechanic in the game where you had to lock your door physically. So you'd look at the bolt on your door and lock it. But
mm.
every time you wake up, the bolt was undone.
I
And I
see.
think
Yeah,
out of every single player that I watched play my game, that was the most scariest part for them, because they were like,
mm,
what the hell keeps opening my front door? And then they'd walk around the whole house looking to sort of see if something would jump out at them, and nothing ever did. And I
yeah,
think it got towards the end of the game. It's about a 30-minute game sort of thing. And I think it got to around the 25-ish minute mark, so right near the end of the game. And by that time, their sense of security is so low, because they're like, well, if something was going to happen, it would have happened now. And then that's the point where I go and I strike and I put
yeah.
something in the game that really, and it got everyone, and I mean everyone. And there's even Matt and Vidus, who are like so sort of, void of horror these days, because they make them as well. It got them too, and I just think it was such a good way of sort of implementing that kind of thing, because I think too many people these days just try and just dump whatever they can on a screen and just see if it sticks. But it was good to see that absolutely everyone had that. I took the subjective stuff out the window and just threw it out and managed to scare everyone. So I was quite proud of that one.
Yeah, that's good. I have definitely noticed like you don't always go for like, obviously what you were saying, you don't always go for like the easiest or cheap like scare.
Yeah.
You always like there seems to be a lot of tension in your games, and it's very like location based, and you're isolated and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I suppose it is like film as well. It must be difficult to really work out like what do people find scary, because horror is a lot like comedy in the fact that like what one person is scared of or finds funny, it's not going to click for that other person.
Yeah.
But no, that's good. What was that one called? The one with the door locking and
What Is That? It's called.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's a really good idea, because I guess it's quite a simple. I wouldn't say simple. I wouldn't be able to do it, but it's quite a simple idea in terms of like, I don't know about the
Oh
implementation,
no,
but
you're
like
right. I mean, it was a
simple
simple
idea just
idea.
to
Yeah.
lock the door. The door's unlocked, and you know, you don't even see that kind of thinking in like modern horror films these days. So it's good that they responded well to that. So you created House of the Dead in 2 weeks. What's the sort of time frame for a normal game of yours? Was that rushed, or is 2 weeks sort of like a target for you?
2 weeks was very generous, actually. I think that was probably one of the longest game jams I've done.
Oh, really?
Uh, yeah,
Wow.
what is that? I did in a week.
Oh,
And
wow.
there was a game jam, the shortest one I've done. There was a game jam when I first started university. They held a game jam, but it's called the Global Game Jam. So people from all over the world take part in it.
Yeah.
And the university I go to, Falmouth, host it. And that was 48 hours.
Oh, wow.
I
So
made a
was
game
that?
in two
I'm
in
sure
two
that
days.
was that flat out. Then you didn't sleep at
Pretty
all. Or...
much, yeah,
Wow.
pretty much. I actually, we were allowed to have people help us, and Vidus actually helped me on that one by doing some like models and stuff, and I did all the engine work and like the mechanics and stuff, and yeah, it came out quite well. Especially, you know what I mean, for 48 hours, don't expect anything amazing, but
Yeah.
yeah, people responded well to it. It's called Sea of Trees,
Okay. Yeah.
um,
I think I've
and that
seen
one,
that one before. Is
yeah,
that the
that
one
one,
with it's like all like a red sky and like really
yeah.
like crazy sounds like music and stuff?
Yeah, it's set in Japan, the suicide forest
Yeah,
in,
yeah,
in
yeah.
Japan. Yeah. And that was because it's actually referred to as the Sea of Trees, and I really liked the title. So
Hmm.
Vidus did the logo for that. He did several of the models in there. I did the music, sort of environments kind of looking thing, and yeah, it went quite well. I mean, for 40 hours, you couldn't really ask for anything more than that. So that was
No.
definitely the quickest one I've done. Yeah.
Oh, wow. I didn't. When I was saying 2 weeks, I was thinking, oh wow, like that's quick, but obviously you've done a lot quicker. So
Hmm.
you spoke about like Vidas helping you with the assets and the models and stuff.
Sure.
Do you use like I know they do like Unity like asset packs and stuff like that. Do you use like ready built things for your games? If I'm honest, I'm just trying to learn as much as possible. Like,
Sure.
do you create stuff yourself, or do you use like a mix of pre-made assets?
So I always will make stuff on my own, but I will sometimes put assets in there if it's things like, for example, a game jam where I'm on very sort of limited time,
Yeah.
or if there's a particularly difficult mechanic that I'm like, wow, how the hell am I going to do this? Because with Unreal, it's like visual code,
Mm.
so I'm pretty good with that. I've definitely learned a lot, but there are still things that are like way over my head kind of thing you want to do. So sometimes those packs are pretty good to sort of help you, and they're good for prototyping as well. So one of the things that they get us to do a lot in university is prototype, and generally I will use asset packs to prototype, and then I'll go away and I'll just do it on my own sort of thing, or I'll find a better way of doing things.
Yeah.
I normally have this conversation with Matt quite a lot. I'll sometimes go, how would you do this? And he'd be like, I'd probably do this, and this. And that's the great thing. There's multiple ways of doing things, right? And I will sit there and I'll look at these things and I'll be like, why has this person done it this way? It's like so long and complicated. When I think my most recent one was there was this thing I'd seen either on a video or in like a pack that I was looking at, and he had got this massive long string of code to do this thing, and I was like, but you could do this. And I remember snipping all bits of it out and just
Mm.
squashing it together, and I think it was more like less than 5 lines of like code,
Yeah.
where his one was like plus 30 something, and
Oh,
it did
wow.
exactly the same thing, and you would never have told the difference kind of thing. I
Mm.
think some people just, they get set in their ways, I guess. um, but yeah, there's a good way of kind of being lean in these kind of things and trying to find better ways. But at the end of the day, I guess, if anyone's out there thinking, you know with their projects, if they're into this sort of stuff, there is no wrong or right way. I mean, if it works, it works. Do what's right for you. It's just when there's people out there that I think that are classed as industry veterans, and they're selling things to help people, you want to probably go down the easier route for the newer people, because it's easier for them to understand at the end of the day, and then when they get that confidence piece up, they can do more intricate stuff if they want to. So I never understood that part of it, but
So yeah, so you could build off what other people have created already and improve it, I guess, snip it down, break it down.
That's one way of saying it. But almost most of the time I try to use everything, like model stuff in Blender, all on my own. I think I'm working on something right now. In fact, I can show you that I made in Blender, but the host is disabled participant screen share.
Oh dear, hang on.
Yeah, that's all right.
See if I can.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't find it, no worries.
Yeah, maybe if you send me a screenshot, I can drop it in.
I'll do that for you.
Okay.
But basically, I modeled a flat inside a corridor, and I've added all of the like textures to it, all the models and stuff done by me, and the lighting, and it's just so much more rewarding knowing that there's something about your stuff that's unique that you can't see anywhere else. So
definitely, yeah, no, I can definitely see that. Like, I've been watching some like videos and stuff of it might not be relevant at all or something, but it's of like a crowd-funded like scam games and stuff where they'll like promise like a massive like MMO thing, and then they'll come out and it will just be like all just like ready-made assets and stuff like that. So I definitely like, there's two different sides to it, because obviously you're like all about doing what you love and like wanting to make it your own, and then there's people out there that are just doing it for the money. So I mean, you're not even like, they're not even games developers, so I don't even know, there isn't even a connection there. So obviously you focus a lot on horror games, obviously. Are there any other genres that you'd love to branch out into in the future, or anything you're looking to try?
Yeah, definitely shooters. I think that's kind of like what I class as my guilty pleasure kind of thing. So I love Call of Duty, I love Battlefield, stuff like that. They're just notoriously hard to make. There's so many animations, particles, effects kind of going on the screen at once. It's kind of difficult to really kind of get a decent-ish looking kind of shooter, And although, funnily enough, one of the games that I had published on Steam recently by the DreadX people, obviously called The Hunt. Again, Vidus and I worked on a game along with Abby. So that was a first-person shooter set within an abandoned snow military base kind of thing, and then there'd be like these files up on the wall, and each file was a different game done by different indie devs. So you had things like Corpse Pile, and you had things like Airdorf, and loads of like well-respected names and all that. And then there was me, Vidus, and Abby on the wall, and you could pick up their file and read them, then play our game and stuff. And it was all part of this really unique collection and stuff. So that was quite fun, and that was obviously my first sort of majorly published game on Steam.
So you dropped, sorry if I'm misunderstanding, so you almost dropped their game into, or dropped other games inside the shooter. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so
it was almost like a mini game within the game, or
kind of, yeah. So essentially what it is, there's a publisher that makes horror games, right? And they're called DreadX. And they basically approach indie developers and they go, would you make a game for us? And then we get paid to make a game, and then they own the rights to that game. And then what they do is they take 7 perfectly curated games within the shooter genre, and they always focus on a theme. So for example, this theme was a shooter, so we made a first-person shooter game, and so did the other 6 indie devs as well. And then the main launcher or the area is also a game. So when you start the game, you play as a character that's got to break into this abandoned military outpost set in the Arctic North Pole or whatever. And when you get in there, you find that people inside the facility have been killed, but there's these files that have been left, and she's reading through the files, but each file is a game. And then so then you play those indie games inside that little game kind of thing. It's just a really cool concept. They've done it with everything they've published, but it was really fun and an honor to be part of that, especially with so many well known indie devs, sort of things.
I like
Yeah,
that. Yeah, it's a creative way to sort of, publish a game, I guess. And yeah,
yeah,
no, it must have been good exposure as well. Obviously, being with those like well known
yeah,
names in there.
yeah.
Oh, interesting. So you not, I don't even know how you'd even go about doing this, but is there any sort of ideas on anything like multiplayer? Is that something that's even like in the realm of possibility? Go ahead, fire away then.
Yeah, so it's obviously something that's always kind of coming up. I get approached a lot about making a multiplayer game. Obviously, one of the biggest things for streamers these days are things like Dead by Daylight. They got things like Lunch Lady, Devour. Um, there's loads of those kind of co-op kind of horror, what they called asymmetrical horror games, where it's like 4 people versus one ghost or something like that, or
Yeah.
you've got to collect stupid 8 pages or something and then burn them to banish the spirit or something like that. So
Mm.
it's something that we're in talks with myself, Matt, and Vidus. So we did one game as a collab between all of us that did really well called Alone, and we're going to be coming back and doing another game soon. But I think we want to tackle something multiplayer related because I think that would be quite interesting to do. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So it's definitely something that will get done at some point, but
Is
hopefully sooner rather than later.
Yeah, is that so multiplayer as in the horror in within horror as well, or
Just because it's us, I would say it would be some sort of asymmetrical horror kind of game, yeah, or it would be 3v1 kind of horror game where it's like 3 good guys versus one person that plays the bad guy. So we'll see. We've got a few ideas, but it's definitely something we want to do because I think it gives that kind of it's a learning curve then for all of us because none of us have done a multiplayer game yet,
hmm.
and it's replayability. Streamers love it and stuff like that. So it's another good way of kind of getting stuff out there and getting known, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. It will definitely open yourself up to like a whole new market because
Yeah.
some people just aren't into single player games. I know I don't play many single player games. I'm always just looking to like jump on with my mates. Especially within
Mhm.
lockdown, it's almost like a
Yeah.
substitute for meeting up or doing something outside. So yeah. So how do you even do you need like a server to host the multiplayer game, or will it be almost like there are like ways where you can have the person playing the game host it from their own device? Is that something that you've considered? Or how do those things even work?
Yeah, so I mean that's a great question because that's one of the things that most people will probably want to know when making a horror game. So there are 2 options, and they're both the ones that you just said. Option one is that we host we hire a server, and we basically pay for that monthly, and then depending on how many people we want. So for example, you could go real bare bones cheap and do like I think one of those Google servers, which is like I don't know if it's like $3 a week or $3 a month. It's one of the two,
Mm.
and I think it's something like up to 50 people at a time can be playing your game. But the max that game will ever be able to have online is 50 people doing various different servers. And then the second option is you can basically create an invite code and you host a match using your basically your system would be the server, and then only people using your code could do that. So there is a couple of options to do. Both I think are generally easy to implement, especially the server one, because I think you basically just put in your MAC address and server details that you're renting, and people can
Mm.
connect to that, and all that sort of stuff. So the other one, I'm not too sure about how you would go to implement it, but I'm sure we could figure that out between us.
So the one where you would hire a server would be more
The
difficult.
easiest option. No, that would be the
Easiest,
easier
sorry,
option.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
yeah.
obviously you'd say to like the provider, like, here's the details, and they'd sort of, because I could imagine if you were to like implement like what is it called, peers
Peer to
hosting,
peer.
so peer to
Yeah,
peer,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
There,
yeah.
I could imagine there'd be a lot of like security issues and like a lot more work for like you guys if you were to like implement that yourselves into the game.
Yeah, plus the stability of somebody might be playing it who's got a really kind of crappy internet connection or something,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just not good. Whereas a server, you're paying for it, you're getting a guaranteed speed, and if you
Mm.
wanted a better connection or whatever, or more people, then you just pay more money for it. So it's quite flexible, that one, and then all the back end stuff is then done automatically by whoever you choose to do your hosting with.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
No, that definitely makes sense. Um, so let's talk about this uni course then. So, um, is it how is it sort of set out? Is it mostly practical? I know obviously you're doing it from home, or is there a
Mhm.
lot of learning and studying that you're doing for it? How is it sort of set out?
Yeah, so I mean, the way that this graded is, I think it was something like 80% is what was it? So, yeah, so 80% is like your practical, and 20% is your theory. So the way that we've been kind of working is that we had to create our own website, and on our website have a blog. So I've been keeping a blog since January when I started, and it just basically goes throughout my journey. I reflect a lot on what I've learned, what I'm doing at that current point of time. I address all of the exercises that they give us and stuff like that. And then we had to make a personal case video, which we upload to a YouTube channel, and then they get to watch it, and they get to talk about I get to talk about my experiences, what I've learned, what I'm going to do going forwards, etc., etc. And then that 80% encompasses what they call rapid ideation, which is essentially like mini game jams throughout the uni sort of course. So
Okay.
we would get given a theme, and then they'd say, go away, make a game. Right, you've got 4 weeks to do this kind of thing. So obviously in the first part of the course, we all worked on our own, and I came up with a game, and that got put out. I think in total I made 3 games for university so far. Those ones aren't publicly available, but they are if you're a patron on my
Okay.
Patreon. They people can download all the secret access kind of stuff, and they they were scored quite well. One of them was very kind of out there. It was like a Western kind of game, but it was instead of people, it was like robots that lived in this Western town.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And yeah, it actually came out quite well. I don't know, must have been drunk or something when I came up with it, but
Yeah,
it
it's
worked.
quite a crazy sort of
Yeah,
idea. It's
yeah,
similar
but it
to I haven't seen it. There's a film or a series about that, isn't
Westworld.
it? Westworld, yeah,
Yeah,
where it's like a
yeah,
fake like
yeah.
scientific
I think
Western place or something.
I, I'd be lying if I said I didn't get a little bit of inspiration from that. But whereas they
Yeah,
look like real people in Westworld, mine were just straight up
they're just
robots.
straight up like
Yeah, like
Terminators and stuff.
yeah, kind of
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, but it had multiple endings, and it had like a kind of a creepy kind of vibe to it, sort of thing. And it was also kind of feeling a bit futuristic. It had like neon signs everywhere. So where you had the sheriff sign, it was like something out of Cyberpunk where it said sheriff, and it was like all neon lights and stuff,
Mm.
and it looked pretty cool. And I did a little role playing game in which I actually used Unity for that one because I have a little bit of background in code, and I made like a little cube man walk around and interact with people, and he had like a weapon that you could pull out and hit enemies and shoot fireballs and stuff. And we had to do something around depression for that. So this was almost like an RPG. It was like a journey of self-discovery and kind of finding your happiness kind of thing.
Okay.
That one I liked making that one, but it was a pain because of the whole code kind of thing, not because it
Mm.
wasn't visual.
Yeah, yeah.
um yeah, so this time around though at uni, since so I finished in May, and I had a good decent kind of 4 weeks off, and I've kind of been back since the very end of May. And now I'm in a group with 4 others, and we're doing their first team project. And the whole dynamics on that have changed because now I'm kind of working with people whose skill sets are very different to mine.
Mm.
No one is that great in Unreal, which is why I'm doing all the engine work for this sort of like game between us 5. I've got but everyone else is very familiar with Unity, but they all wanted to use Unreal because they want to learn it.
Yeah.
So they're doing things like shaders or models or animations and stuff, and then they're sending it to me, and I'm putting it in the game and stuff. So we have to do something around accessibility for this one. So obviously we're making it. We've got a guy that's deaf, and we've got a guy and a girl that's blind, and they basically have to work together to solve puzzles in this game.
Okay.
So I think the deaf guy, he can see, so he's quite strong and he knows where he's going. And the blind girl has like a what we call a post-processing effect put over it, so you can't really see when you're controlling her, except for you kind of get like a little bit of echolocation from time to time, and it
Okay.
gets the outline of the world when you're running around. So then you have to kind of think about what's going on, but your hearing is really good, so
Hmm.
you can hear everything that's going on in the game. But with the guy that's deaf, you can't hear anything, but you can see.
Okay.
So there
Yeah.
are puzzles that use audio, and there are puzzles that use, things that you can kind of see. So it's quite an interesting dynamic. I must say, it's probably been one of the more challenging things I've had to work on. I've just kind of finished developing this rope swinging mechanic, something out of Uncharted from. It's just it's been a nightmare, but thankfully that's all done now, and we got to show my supervisor last night, and he was like, "Wow, this is good stuff." He was like, "You guys have actually already kind of got a game coming together." And
Yeah.
so we're kind of riding high at the moment.
Yeah. Is it like a 2D game or 3D or
3D, fully
3D? Obviously,
3D.
because it's sorry, Unreal Engine, right? So it has to be would be 3D, wouldn't
Yeah,
it?
I mean, you can do 2D and stuff in Unreal, and they have templates for that sort of thing that can help you. Like they have this thing called starter content, but now we've gone full 3D, but more of an asymmetrical view. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like not, the camera isn't like behind in third person, it's kind of up and at an angle, so you can kind of, you can hold the mouse and rotate the camera around and see 360 degrees.
Okay, so it doesn't sort of like move with the character. It's like
No, you have to move the camera.
differently
Yeah,
controlled. Okay,
yeah.
cool. And so the rope. So you said like the rope was a challenge. What sort of challenges did you come into when creating that? Is it like a just like an animation thing, like you jump onto the rope and it swings, or is it like completely physics based where you're like controlling different segments of the rope and where it would like fall and stuff?
Completely physics based.
Yeah.
And that's,
Okay.
yeah. So
That's what I
it's
assumed. Yeah.
yeah, so it's like you have to, you there's a thing that I learned recently in Unreal, it's called cable, and it's like literally like a physics rope that hangs down, and you can attach
Yeah.
it to certain like different things. So I just had it hanging in the middle of the scene, and then I had to figure out a way of how to attach the player to a specific part of the rope, you know.
Mm,
And so I've got these trigger points throughout the part of the rope. So if you jump high and you grab the top, you grab the top of the rope, middle of the rope, bottom of the rope. And
yeah.
then obviously that then impacts, if you're trying to swing at the very top of the rope, you're going to have to swing like mad to kind of get that velocity going. Whereas at the bottom, it's a lot easier kind of thing. So all of that took about a day because there's a lot of math involved in that.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it works, and you can even swing from like rope to rope if you want now. And yeah, it's just like I said, I think because it was physics based, if it was more just of an animation, it would have been
Would have
about an
been
hour's
simple.
work or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, no, it's been a challenge, but it's good because I learned something at the same time, and that's kind of what I've been really pushing myself to do. And again, going back to the two guys that kind of really helped me get into this, there's things that I'm now doing that they've never done before, and they're like, wow, sort of thing. So yeah, I know I'm heading in the right direction when I impress them too.
Yeah. No, definitely. And I guess it's good as well that you're working on in Unreal Engine, and obviously the others haven't worked in that before, so I'm sure you're like they're learning stuff as well, so you might be taking on sort of like a teaching sort of role or helping them out there, which again is good for your
Yeah.
development as well. No, that's great. So how long is the course as well?
So the whole course is 3 years,
3 years, so you're in
and
your
I'm first year still.
first year. Okay.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you
yeah.
must be coming to the end of the first year soon.
So the first year will be, I think it's around it's like beginning of October is the end of my first year.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. We'll definitely keep us updated on your progress into that and stuff. And obviously, when you come out at the end, we'll have to hear the result and everything. Um, so, do you have any? I don't always ask this to people because I don't always focus on just one specific like
Yeah.
in this industry or detail of them. But obviously, we've been talking a lot about gaming, so I'm thinking about let's in the context of like who's going to be watching this far into it or who's going to be listening this far into it.
Sure.
do you have any advice for someone looking to get into the industry? What's your like
Yeah.
number one bit of advice first out the gate?
Okay. Number one bit of advice is, I guess, don't be scared. Just pick up and dive into it. You're going to make mistakes along the way, but just that's kind of how you learn from them. I mentioned there's tons of free programs. Blender is free. Unreal is free. Unity is free. It just really kind of depends on what you want to sort of focus on. If you're good with code, use Unity, because visual code is very different that way. But I would say if you're more of a kind of um, visual kind of person that wants more help and stuff, then absolutely go with Unreal, because that's going to be a lot better for you.
Okay, so just the distinction between the two is Unity is more like code based then,
It's
and
all
then
code based, yeah. Yeah.
and then the Unreal is more like dropping something into the game and working through it like visually.
Yeah, so they have like little nodes, and then you connect this
Yeah.
node to this node, and then it'll do something, kind of thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I definitely. So yeah. So you spoke about like the the free programs and stuff. I don't know a lot about computers. What sort of equipment is someone going to need to, like as starting off to like get into it?
I think bare minimum for game design. I think the official specs are something like 8 gigs of RAM and a 1050 Ti as a graphics card.
Yeah.
Which are both relatively inexpensive. I think you can pick up probably a pre-built with a 1050 Ti in it from anywhere from about 450 to 600 these days. So if it's
Oh,
something
really?
you're really passionate about, you can definitely get some good stuff in there. I think if you were trying to do stuff with VR, then you definitely need something a little bit more beefier than that. But the 1050 Ti is going to be more than enough for you.
Have you experimented with VR yourself at all? Or
I have, yeah. I've got a little something I'm working on in VR at the moment. I got myself one of those new Oculus Quest 2 headsets as well, because they're just so
oh
much
wow.
easier to prototype with. But yeah, VR is something I want to focus on as a major when I finish my masters. VR is going to be something I will probably pursue as a kind of a big thing, whether or not I go into industry making games, or whether I work in some sort of business kind of development sort of thing. Because I've noticed as well, a lot of the car manufacturers these days, when you go shopping for a car, you can put on a headset and you can get inside the car and look around and stuff. So the
Yeah.
commercial side of VR as well is very opportunistic.
Definitely. Yeah. No, I've been reading up a lot about like all the different ways you could, use VR in marketing and
Hmm.
things of that nature. So that'd definitely be something to get into. I think
Yeah.
people are they're getting a bit of ahead of themselves because they're thinking like, I know especially for like content creation and stuff, people are like, oh, I need to make like stuff for VR and stuff. Like if you think about the amount of time people are looking at screens, it doesn't, the time people spend in VR right now isn't even comparable to like looking at screens or looking at social media and stuff. But I definitely think like sometime in the near future, like you said, it's being implemented in like big car companies and stuff. So you can definitely see maybe like, you think of it like holiday locations maybe, or even like you can think of something like FaceTime or Zoom or something like that with VR, and you could have like like your avatars sitting next to each other. So I don't know, but it's definitely something that like is going to be more popular than it is now. So that's a good thing to get into. And again, like keep us updated on that, because that sounds very interesting. I didn't actually know that about the cars as well. I knew it was happening in marketing, but is that something
Mhm.
that's been implemented?
It's more prevalent in the States and America and
Okay.
stuff like that than over here. I've seen it a couple of times over here, but I think we're talking about more of the upmarket things. Like if you go to a Bugatti showroom and
Yeah, yeah.
Maserati and stuff, they're definitely being used in there, because they don't want the poor people touching the cars. But
Mm.
I mean, just something that's up your alley. I mean, military use it for military sims,
Mm.
stuff like that. And even, funny enough, martial artists, they use it. You
Yeah,
basically put those two like gloves on sort of thing, and then you've got an opponent that's standing in front of you in VR, and you can just, you know, work out to that kind of thing. Because VR does a lot into, there's so many sort of like fitness and exercise stuff as well. And you may have seen it come up at some point, but have you ever heard of the game Beat Saber, which is
Yeah.
like the two lightsabers and stuff? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. My friend has lost so much weight just by playing that game.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is
It's
there
like a
a
massive calorie burner.
Oh, really? Is that
Yeah.
was that sort of built into the game? Is it marketed? Because I don't have a VR headset. It isn't something that
No.
like a Wii Fit or something like that. It isn't something that they advertise it
No,
for.
it's literally just like a Dance Revolution game.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
the some you can find some really sort of like, if you think about some of the songs where like let's just say Eminem when he raps and stuff and he's like da, 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 and those
yeah,
things are coming at you so fast, you're like da, 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 and you're like doing all these exercises, it's equivalent of grabbing those two ropes and doing that sort of thing,
yeah. That's what I was thinking. It's obviously quite
yeah
similar to that movement. So yeah,
yeah, and he's lost like a ton of weight just by playing that, and that's it's not advertised in that way. It's meant to just be a just a simple VR game, enjoying that. But some of those songs that people put on there are just way too fast and difficult for that so you end up sprinting and jumping around and doing all this cool sort of stuff, and then it obviously just end up losing weight as a result of it.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, no, I didn't
Yeah.
even. Yeah, that I didn't even think of that. I know. The last person I interviewed on here, Anthony, who's he does YouTube and stuff. He does some vlogs and everything, but he's also a martial artist as well. And he's got a VR headset, and he's made a couple of videos playing like a boxing game.
Yeah.
So obviously, like, because he did boxing in the past, I spoke to him in the last episode about that. But no, I didn't. It didn't even occur to me that, like, games like Beat Saber and stuff, the alternative is like clicking or playing on the Xbox and something, so you're going to burn a lot of calories just at least even standing up. So that is one thing I've actually been looking into, because obviously I spend a lot of time sitting down. I exercise like multiple times a day, but ultimately I work a job where I sit in front of a computer, and I've been looking into like maybe a standing desk or something like that.
Yeah.
And that you can burn, people don't realize you can burn hundreds of calories just from standing instead of sitting for like those hours that you'd be at work, like the 8 or 9 hours. You burn, like, I think it was 600 calories just in a
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
And that's for the average person. I weigh a lot, so I mean the way it works from my understanding is I'd burn more calories than the average person as well. So yeah, there is, because they've been trying to do stuff like this. It's funny that the Beat Saber works, where like I feel like Wii Fit and some of the other things that people have come out with before sort of, I don't know, it didn't really.
The problem
Yeah,
with Wii Fit though was the fact that with VR, you're just strapping it to your face and you can be as fat as you want and put VR on. But the thing is, the Wii Fit board has a weight limit to it, and the amount of people that would step on it and just go crack, and you'd be like,
that's what I was going to say. Yeah, because it would either
it's
like,
true.
yeah, it would just like
Yeah.
call you obese or like like. No, I've
Yeah.
heard some bad experiences with that anyway, but
Yeah.
no, that is really cool. Yeah, so I think that's all the questions I have. If you have any like closing remarks, anything you want to add at the end, or if not, then just where people can find you, socials, websites, things like that.
Sure. I mean, it's great to catch up with you, obviously, and it's good to sort of not just sort of talk, but see you as well. I've obviously I'm more of a lurker these days on social media when it comes. I think the only thing I'm ever relevant on is things like Twitter, and which you can, if you want to follow me, see some stuff. I'm kind of actually blowing up today because I just announced a new game which people are losing their mind about. You can see that on Twitter as @trial_by_fire, but there's no E. It's a number 3 at the end.
Yeah,
If you want to check that out, that's great. But yeah, I like stalking people on that sounds really bad, on things like that. So I've been seeing, you like your workout stuff. I know you're keeping well and fit and healthy, and that's good, especially in with the whole COVID thing. And yeah, it's good that I think we're all kind of doing like a lot better since kind of going our separate ways, and
definitely.
it was as I said to Christian before, it was never one of those things that I wanted it to be as like a horrible thing, but I just knew in my bones that this was something I was kind of meant to do. You know, it's great seeing all the stuff that you're able to do. And I think Christian's just passed us something like 7,000 followers on Instagram or something like that.
Yeah,
It's just absolutely crazy.
you think that's crazy? You should see his TikTok, because I convinced him. I was like, oh man,
Yeah.
you need to get
You
on
got him into
TikTok.
that, didn't you? Yeah.
He's on like I think he's like close to like 10K now. He's live streaming with like thousands of people, and he's just having a good time. Like he's getting like hundreds of comments and stuff. So I definitely think, like, in terms of like what our goal was to, you know, get together and get the best out of it. I think
Mm.
like, even though it didn't go the way we thought it would,
Mm-hmm.
the way how we like came together and then almost split off, it almost did it in like an alternate way, if you know what I mean. It
Yeah.
almost took us closer to like what we wanted to do ourselves. So
Yeah.
I think like I wouldn't trade it for the world, like what
Yeah.
happened. So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
definitely like worked out well for all of us. But
Yeah.
yeah, he said it. Trial by fire with the E as a free, on Twitter, underscores in between as well. I'll put a link. I'll put some links down below. But Aaron, it's been a pleasure talking to you and catching up with you.
Yeah. You too,
I,
man.
I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
And as I said, once you can give us more information on the Nintendo and everything else that you're working on, the VR and your master's degree in game design. You're welcome to come back on, you
Thanks.
know, in the coming future and discuss that as well. So, and everyone else who stuck around, thanks for sticking around this long. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.